To continue with our style and delivery segment, let's take a look at the nonverbal language that we use and how it is presented in a speech or a presentation. Style is a way to say who you are without speaking. And oftentimes, that's also what we call our first impression. You know, when we stand up and we begin to move to the podium or to move to the center of the stage to speak, before a word comes out of our mouth, our audience has registered aspects about us, from our body language to our clothing to even how we hold ourselves. And that first impression goes a long way to making a successful speech. We'll talk about the tone of a speech, the body language that we use, and the apparel that we utilize to communicate with our audience. The tone of the speech. The tone is the vocal variations, the use of language, the words we choose, and how we present them with emotion, with expression and delivery through just the vocal tones. Now, in this case, we also want to remember that this goes up and down. There is not a perfect tone to deliver a speech in, because if you find a tone and you stick to that tone through the whole entire speech, you become monotone. And that is what you need to truly avoid. So having a variation, upbeat, slowed down, quiet, loud, all of these changes in tone truly keep your audience connected with you, if not at least awake. Tone work is the work that we put into changing our tones to express feelings, to show excitement, to connect and continue connecting with our audience through the tone that we have set in the speech. Tone and style complement each other. A situation might require a tone to be very casual, very low, dignified. On the other hand, another tone might require to be very excited, very lively, very upbeat. So tone and style work together in your delivery. Nonverbal language that we use. Let's begin with what's called paralanguage, and these are the vocal elements that we utilize when presenting. Volume is one. Volume, we of course need to change throughout our speech because there'll be moments that we're talking about something very serious and our volume might come down to match that. On the other hand, there might be a situation where we really need to show excitement and energy, and so our vocal volume goes up. The pitch, again, we're changing our pitch throughout. We don't want that monotone element. Articulation, we want our audience to understand what we are saying. So when we write our speech and we do the word crafting there, and then we bring it over and now we're delivering, we need to capture that and bring it through with articulation or pronunciation of the words we have chosen so that we avoid confusion. The rate. The rate can change. If it's a very sad thing, we slow down our rate and we talk more deliberately. We pronunciate more clearly. On the other hand, if we're talking about something truly exciting, we speed up. We show that energy. We're about to burst. So rate is important. Modulation as well. We're going to be modulating. We're going to be doing these paralanguage changes throughout our speech. What we want to avoid is those verbal fillers, because when we're delivering something that is very much, we're slowing down our pace and we have a real purpose behind it, and we want our audience to remember the next thing we say. We want to use pauses instead of using filler words, because that whole thing then suddenly becomes, we want our audience to remember the next thing we say. That comes off horribly. So you see, we want to avoid those filler words. Silence is okay. The pause is all right. You can embrace the pause. We'll watch a TED Talk on this. You'll enjoy that, and you will understand why you avoid those verbal fillers. Next is the actual body language, gesturing. There's a reason why I want you in your presentations to show me at least the upper half of your body, because when you're on stage or in front of a group speaking, you're not just going to be a floating head like you are on Zoom or some other computer app. There are elements that you do need to draw in for those type of presentations. But the bigger presentations, you need to make sure you're using gestures, appropriate gestures that enhance what you're saying. That if you want to bring a speech from here to here, you use the gesture showing we're going up. Or we want to slow it down and slowly fade. You see, your gestures are as effective as the words you're using. Facial expressions. Now, of course, when you're on one of those conference meetings via the internet, yeah, your facial expression is going to be important. And with facial expressions, you can go big on those like you do your gestures. Now, of course, you don't want to be crazy. You don't want to be making silly faces like you do with a baby, where, ah. No, you want to still use those so that way you're giving feedback to the presenter, or you're letting your audience know, hey, it's okay to smile. I'm telling you about something stupid I did. You can smile because I laugh at it now too. Those are absolutely acceptable. Next, eye contact. I know this is hard. There are a lot of people out there that hate eye contact. There are people that have to learn new eye contact methods. I had to. For instance, when we all went online, I was still used to looking at faces on, face to face. So I always look down, and as you can see, I'm not making eye contact until I look up to the camera. So when you're presenting online, eye contact is the camera. When you are live and you're presenting to an audience, your eye contact is important, especially within our culture and our society, because that's part of our credibility with the audience. Do they look you in the eye? So what I recommend with eye contact is actually find friendly faces in each section of the audience. People that you can look to and they're going to give you positive feedback. They don't scare you, they don't intimidate you, and you actually talk to them for 3 to 5 seconds and then go with the next friendly face, 3 to 5 seconds, next friendly face. And this gives you eye contact throughout the room without looking at the people that scare you or intimidate you, or the best friend that wants to make you lose it so that way you start giggling in the middle of your speech. So find those friendly faces, make eye contact with them, know your audience knows when you're just looking over them, because it's pretty obvious. It's like when I look at the screen instead of the camera. You can see the difference. So make eye contact with your audience. It might be something you have to work on, but find those friendly faces and present to them. Now we're going to go beyond the book. We're going to break out of the book here for a moment. There are some nonverbal elements the book isn't talking about, proxemics. This is the distance you have between your audience. If you want your audience to feel a warmth towards you, that you are connecting with them, that you're reaching out to them, move towards the audience. In so doing, your audience is going to get more of a connection to you. On the other hand, if you move away from your audience, they're going to feel you're pulling back and that you're separating from them. So you can utilize this in a speech. When you really want to make your big point, you step forward center stage and you make it there. You don't step back to the back of the stage and make your point from there, because your audience will feel, oh, he's disconnected, he's not talking to me. So use proxemics. Another element is if you lower yourself. Yes, you always have the cool teacher that sits up on the desk and they lower themselves and they become more of the audience. And it actually is a technique for making you all feel more comfortable, is lowering yourself. It's like when you talk to a child. If you talk to a child downward at an angle, you're kind of hovering over them. It's kind of a intimidating thing. On the other hand, if you go down to your knee and you talk to a child face to face, they get more of a connection. Same thing here. Purposeful movements. Now, purposeful movements, especially when you're on a stage and you're speaking in front of a group, can be difficult because we all like to stand in one place and feel safe and secure. This is my safe spot. It's behind the podium. No one can get me here. But that puts a barrier between you and your audience. Instead, what you want to have is purposeful movement where you present to a side of the audience, you may take a step or two, present to another part of the audience, and finally to the next part of the audience. And you can kind of shift this around. What you don't want, though, is you can put reminder on your note cards to speak to different parts of the audience, but don't make it where it's very clear, such as you're presenting, you look down at your note card, oh, you look up, you take 3 steps to the right, and you turn back towards the audience. That's too robotic. So keep it natural, keep it so you're connecting with the audience, your stance. The natural stance for public speaking is your hands down by your side, palms towards the audience, and kind of an open stance. It feels vulnerable because it truly is, but that is all right because your audience doesn't want you to be closed off from them, and they want you to feel that you're not intimidated by them. So being vulnerable towards them shows that you're not afraid. When you start folding your arms, or you start hiding your face or fidgeting with things, your audience notices those and feels that uncomfortableness, and it makes them judge that versus listen to the content of your speech. Watch for mixed signals. This can be in both vocalics and it can be in your body language. For instance, this is one of my favorite ones. You've decided to go out and your significant other tells you, oh yeah, please go have fun tonight and I'll just stay home. It'll be wonderful. As you can see, the body language is closed, the vocal tone is hostile, and it's completely a mixed signal from what the words are. On the other hand, they say, oh, please go out and have a good time. I'm going to stay here. I got some things to do. We'll have a good evening doing this. Okay, you feel safe to go out. The other way, you felt like, I better call my friends and stay home. So watch for those mixed signals. Nonverbal messages can convey more meaning, and nonverbal includes the tone, the pitch, and the language as far as delivery, not the words, and the actual physical nonverbals, the gestures, the closed or open body language. Now, when you look at the chart here, you'll say, well, that's pretty definite. It actually shifts depending on who you're talking to and the situation that you're in. For instance, if you're on a phone, they actually, believe it or not, some of your nonverbals do come through. Like if you answer your phone and you smile, that actually comes through versus if you frown. It's odd. They don't see your face, but they can hear it in your voice. But your spoken word is going to mean more on a telephone than they will on a Zoom meeting, and that will even be less than they are in person. So the situation does change that, but do remember that nonverbals and tone are very important. Best way to overcome your mixed signals and problems such as this, practice it. When you write your speech, you write it, you read through it, you may hum through it, and then you put it on your note cards and you practice how you will deliver it. Reading note cards is not practice. Practice is actually pretending to be in front of the audience and delivering your speech. So practice how you're going to perform. In public speaking, we like to think of apparel as being business casual. I mean, that's pretty much our default if asked, well, what should I present in? Well, business casual is normally good for a speech, unless it's a formal situation, in which case you have to dress in a formal apparel. Or if it's a casual one, you might be in But once again, we're kind of drawing our way back to audience analysis. We'll tell you what is important, but when we're talking nonverbal, we can go a step beyond that, that apparel can actually create your ethos. Such as when you look at this picture in front of you and you look at each of these individuals, you can guess what type of speech they would give. You have one gentleman there that would give a good speech on being a plumber because he has a wrench, or perhaps the medical people in the middle with the stethoscopes. They would work on giving a medical type of speech. Why? Because they fit what their audience thinks they should when they present. That is why oftentimes you'll see police officers, they'll go up in uniform when they're testifying. They don't have to. They could go up in a business suit and be fine, but they get a little extra credibility when they wear their uniform. You'll find this with many different things where you can use that to increase your ethos. Audience expectations are met, and so they're going to automatically pay a little bit more attention, such as if one of the people there with the chef hat on came out and was going to tell you about cooking. Yeah, they look like a chef. I'll listen to him talk like a chef. On the other hand, if the plumber came out and was going to talk to you about cooking, you may not pay attention to them based on their clothing. You can also use it to shock or draw attention to an audience. I have students who will do this and have a hobby that they truly enjoy, and so they'll come in dressed in the type of clothing they'd wear at that hobby. A football player in a football uniform, a soccer player with the socks and the cleats and the shorts and the uniform on. All those, your audience will go, oh, this isn't something I see every day. I'll pay attention to it. And it helps you boost your confidence because when you look the role for your speech and you feel credible and you feel comfortable in what you're wearing, it comes through and you have more confidence. What we talked about is tone of speech, body language, and apparel. All of these are nonverbal language that we utilize to connect with our audience. Finally, a little something from Mark Twain. Clothes make the man. Naked people have little or no influence on society. So remember that when you're presenting your speech, dress the part, wear the proper apparel, connect with your audience.